Hey friend, Roger Christofferson here again with a new series or whatever I'm trying here today. I don't even know, but I had just noticed that two albums from the band Yes were celebrating anniversaries this week. 1978, the album Tormato was released on September 22nd, and in '87, the album Big Generator was released on September 21st. And those are actually a couple of the first albums I got from Yes. And I know Tormato does not get a lot of love. In fact, it gets hate. A lot of people do not like that album. And Big Generator just doesn't get a whole lot of attention. And I actually like these albums, so I thought I'd talk about them today and go on there's a show called The Contrarians. This is a couple of my contrarian picks, I guess. The way I kind of came to discover Yes was partially through Tormato, so that might explain a little bit of this, but I had gotten like classic Yes, I think, was the first one I ever got. It was one of those albums I got through one of these Columbia House things, where you get a bunch of tapes or records or whatever it was, and you had to buy a bunch more. Well, that was like one of the first ones I got, and right after that, 90125 had come out, and of course, Old Marvel Only Heart was all over the radio, and I thought it sounded kind of cool. And then I got the album, and I remember the song Changes on that album was like one of my favorite songs at that point in time. So I kind of dove deep into who is this band. Yes, they have a history. Holy crap, I got to get some stuff. And I remember getting Tormato at one of these cutout bins. I think it was at one of these places called Zare Plaza. It was a department store that predated Walmart way back in the day. And the other one that I got way back then was Tales from Topographic Oceans, because one of my friend's brothers had it on a record, and we snuck it from his collection, and we recorded it on the cassette tape, and we would listen to that album a lot. So if anybody knows Yes music, which they probably are after watching this or listening to this, knows that those are some really strange albums to start with. So that was my introduction, was that mishmash of music. And I listened to, I actually, like 9125 was like the one I started with, so I listened to that a lot. But when I got Tormato, we had to buy these things with our own money. I can't remember exactly how old I was when I got this, but probably around 13, 14 years old. And I would just listen to that album over and over and over and over, and because I had never heard anything quite like that before. So if anything, not knowing the history of Yes probably helped me like this album, because the recording of it is quite different. I think they discovered like later years there was no like Dolby noise reduction used on it. Rick Wakeman was using different synthesizers they had never used. The kind of what John Anderson was like laying down guitar parts acoustically, and then Steve Howe and Rick Wakeman come and do their part, take the acoustic guitar out, and then there's these big gaps in the music that left it sounding strange. But not knowing any of this, or what the other stuff it actually sounded like, because I think this is like this would be the third one that I actually got. It just sounded crazy to me and like intricate, and I didn't know much about sound production or anything back in those days. I just knew the music itself was what I was focused on. It just sounded really interesting to me. And it's funny, even the song Circus of Heaven, which I know people absolutely hate, I could recite every single word of that song to you right now, because my kids love that song. I used to play that song like just driving around, and we just like would recite the words because they were so like weird, and I don't know, but just my family had a lot of fun driving around listening to that song in particular. I put it on one of my mixtapes that we would listen to, and that was just one we really enjoyed. But yeah, I mean, this kicks in with Future Times, Rejoice, and I just remember like not understanding this music at all. It was like mind-boggling to me. And then Don't Kill the Whale, of course, the second song on here, has its little message to it, but musically I just thought it was really interesting. Madrigal, of course, was the harpsichord thing that was actually, I think it was suggested by Anderson to Wakeman that they should write a madrigal, and he just wrote that and called it that. And one of my favorite songs on this side is Release, Release. I used to listen to that one over and over and over. I just really liked the progression of that song. It was upbeat, and it was just a fun, uplifting song. Of course, I got this on LP. So side 2, Arriving UFO, which I actually didn't care for that one too much. It was an okay song, but it's, I mean, science fiction based type lyrics, obviously. And then into Circus of Heaven, which I already explained. Then Onward, I guess, is Chris Squire. He wrote that song himself. He actually thinks that is one of the best songs he ever wrote. I actually really enjoy that song. And then On the Silent Wings of Freedom is an Anderson Squire song, which just, I just thought they were a nice way to end the album. Cool song. Now listening to it years later, it does sound a lot thinner. The recording process is way different. So I understand why people who were Yes fans listening to this, especially after from like something going for the one into this, can understand, and all the stuff that had come before it. I understand why people didn't like this. But you can see the transition of the band at this point in time. Of course, they got rid of a couple key members and they recorded Drama after this and really changed the style of the band. And then, of course, really changed the style of the band after that, going into 90125. So, you know, there's a whole lot of transition going on from album to album to album, like through those years, until they took their big break there and came back, you know, with, well, I guess it was only like a 3-year break. Came back, you know, with 90125. The funny part is there's a bigger break between 90125 and Big Generator, which is the same band. That album, you know, as everybody knows, that was kind of the comeback. It wasn't even meant to be Yes. It was like, the only reason I think it ended up being Yes is because they asked, you know, Trevor Horn asked Johnny Anderson to come back into the band. I think that's how that happened, after they had already been working on it and going under the name Cinema. And, you know, Johnny Anderson added his thing to it, which I'm glad he did. I think it sounds way... I heard a lot of the demos that Trevor Rabin had done, because he's released them. I forget, I think it's called 90123. I think that's the name of the album that Trevor released. It was all the demos and stuff. And you can hear the what John Anderson really added to that band. And when they came back, you know, they did that album, obviously, and then there was like a 4-year break between the release of Big Generator. Obviously, they went out and toured, and they recorded, like, starting in '85, actually, on Big Generator, and amazingly, they stayed all the same members for that point in time. But like I said, this album doesn't get a whole lot of love either. Although when I got it, it was a big change, and I remember thinking this is a big change from 90125. Even though it's the same band, they kept they went a little bit more poppy, I think, even though they tried to like stay true to the Yes feel. I think they went a little more pop. I mean, Rhythm of Love, pretty much it's a song about sex, which I don't think they'd ever really done. Which I like that song. It's a really cool song. A lot of weird effects going on in that. From what I understand, Trevor Rabin played a lot of the keyboards on the song. Tony Kaye didn't have a whole lot to do with it. Him and Horn were fighting a lot during the recording of this, and in fact, I think he recorded his keyboards all separate from the rest of the band. Didn't even do it around Horn, from what I understand. But that's neither here nor there. The sounds on this album from the keyboards, they were doing a lot of experimenting. They did a lot of that on 90125, but I think it was a lot more on this album than they did on 90125. But Big Generator, the next song on their title song, cool. You can hear that they're trying to like be more I don't know, like radio friendly. I don't think it works myself. I don't, except for maybe Level Find Away, which is, you know, on side 2. But the Big Generator, I just get the feeling they're going for that one. Now, one of my favorite songs on here is Shoot High, Aim Low. I think that's a cool song. I think it's got a really cool mood to it. Don't really understand what the lyrics are about, quite honestly, completely. But it's a pretty long song. It just goes along a real cool musical journey. It never really gets too bombastic or anything. It just got a really cool feel to it. I like that song. Almost Like Love, the last song. one of those ones I kind of skipped over quite a bit. I didn't. It's an okay song, but it didn't really reach out and grab me too much. And I had this on cassette, so I just fast forward to the next side. And Level Find a Way, of course, was the big hit. Actually, really like that song. It's that one's definitely pop. The band I'm in right now is actually thinking about covering this song, is adding it into one of our fun little things to do. That one's the only song on here that was completely written by Trevor Rabin. Most of the stuff is like co-writes between the guys, which was cool. They didn't do that a lot, I guess, around this period of time. Everybody would just come in with their own thing, but there's a lot of co-writes on this one. Finalize and I'm Running are the next two songs in there. Also very, for going for what I think is a pop feel, these are fairly long songs. One was 6:20, the other one was 7:34. To me, they didn't really reach out and grab me too much. They're good songs, but there's nothing really special about that one. Although I do like the way the album ends with Holy Land, which is a song for their harmonic convergence. It was written by Anderson. I guess there was some big meditation thing going on in '87. I don't know exactly the whole history behind that, but it was a big thing that all these people were going to meditate at the same time, and then something along those lines that John Anderson's really into all that spiritual stuff, and still is to this day as far as I know. And his lyrics were always kind of like mysterious and just kind of, you never really knew what he was writing about. At least I never did. And that's just kind of how it ends. Both of these albums have been re-released with some bonus stuff on it. Actually, I got the re-release of Tormato it's got like 10 extra songs on it, which is like, I don't know. There's some of that stuff I think is better than what was actually on the album. I like that album, like I already said. Album artwork was really strange for that one too. I think that was the first, if I'm not mistaken, that was the first album that they did not use Roger Dean for, but actually now I'm thinking about it, I believe it was Going for the One was the first one they used without using Roger Dean's artwork, since they had started using him. And then it was actually many, many years they went before they actually started using his artwork again. In fact, I think Asia started using his artwork a lot more before, a whole lot of other people use his artwork too, but it's, they didn't use him. Geez, what was the first album that they used him again on? I don't know. I think it was Union, but then they stopped for a little bit too, because I remember Talk had a weird album cover on it too. But Roger Dean's always been kind of like associated a lot with Yes, and right about that point in time there, they weren't using his artwork anymore. I think that was kind of a mistake too, especially for Going for the One and Tormato. I think they used him on Drama too. Geez, I'm jumping around here. They did a lot of changing around that period in time. So anyway, when they stopped using him for a few albums here and there for the artwork, I think that's part of the experience of Yes for, I think, a lot of Yes fans, is the artwork. And I remember Tales from Topographic Oceans. I just remember when I got that album, like I actually went out and got it myself. And, when we borrowed it from my friend's brother, and just opening it up, it's got the big gatefold thing, and it's got all this weird floating, like, land things in space or whatever they were. I could not make heads or tails of what it was, but I thought it was cool. That's kind of how you explain their music, and their music kind of like reflected the what the artwork looked like. And they didn't have any of that. Tormato, what the heck was that album cover? I don't know, but same thing with Big Generator's album artwork was just blah. That was horrible. That was just computer generated nothing. So anyway, just my takes on these albums. Actually really like the albums. From mid 90s on, they kind of like hit or miss with me. I didn't, kind of like just some of that stuff from that point in time, especially Magnification. That one really left me like flat, and a lot of the newer stuff is just not reaching out to me like this earlier stuff did. I still buy it all. I still love Yes. I actually saw them in concert. So when they did this thing with Asia a few years ago, took my kids all to see them. They did the whole Drama album. I remember almost all the Drama album on that tour. Cannot remember the year that was, but that was a lot of fun. I just love this band. Chris Squire is one of my huge influences on bass playing, and unfortunately he's no longer with us, but we have all this music, and it was fun kind of pulling this out and checking it out again. And that's one thing we're always going to have, is this music lives on and on forever, and it's kind of why I do this, just to maybe people will be sparked to pull out some stuff from their collection that they haven't listened to in a while, and that keeps the music alive. And that's kind of what this is all about. So anyway, enough of that. If anybody has anything they want to add, their opinions, as always, feel free, respectfully, please, because sometimes, I got to delete a couple of these. Some of these people just cannot help themselves, but you're not going to stay on there. So anyway, like, subscribe, share, and all that fun stuff. And until next time, we will see you.